Lieutenant Michael Reyes keeps his hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, his knuckles white but his breathing even. He's been trained for this, for the spike of adrenaline in the kill zone, for the cold calm needed to make life-or-death decisions. But this isn't a desert in a foreign land. It's the street he grew up on. The enemy isn't a shadow with a rifle. It's a reflection in his rearview mirror silhouette in a wide-brimmed hat, growing larger. The crunch of heavy boots on asphalt sounds louder than any explosion he can remember. His fingers tap a silent, rhythmic beat against the worn leather of the wheel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. He focuses on the dashboard clock, the glowing green numbers, a small point of certainty in a world tilting off its axis. He's done nothing wrong. A perfect, legal turn 3 blocks back, his signal blinking 5 times before he even touched the wheel. He knows the law. He respects the law. He swore an oath to a constitution that was supposed to protect it. The sharp rap on his window makes him flinch, a crack in the icy composure he's so carefully constructed. He powers the window down, the cool night air rushing in, carrying with it the scent of cut grass and simmering prejudice. A flashlight beam spears the darkness, dancing across his face, blinding him. It lingers on his eyes, then his mouth, then the dark skin of his neck. It's an inspection, a silent assessment. And he knows, with a certainty that chills him to the bone, that he has already failed it. The voice that follows is deceptively mild, coated in a syrupy, back-of-the-throat drawl that doesn't quite mask the jagged edges beneath. License and registration, please. Before we continue the story, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment to let us know where you're watching from. Michael's movements are deliberate, slow. He keeps one hand on the wheel, using the other to retrieve his wallet from the console. He doesn't reach for the glove box, not yet. He's learned the choreography of these encounters, a dance of survival taught not in boot camp but on the streets of America. First, the wallet. Then, the verbal announcement of the next move. Officer, my registration and proof of insurance are in the glove compartment. May I have your permission to retrieve them? The beam of the flashlight doesn't waver. Go ahead, slowly. The man behind the light is Officer Robert Clay. His face is a mask of professional neutrality, but his eyes, just visible beyond the glare, are cold and flat. They track Michael's hand as it moves toward the glove box, his own hand resting casually on the butt of his service weapon. Clay's gaze drifts to the passenger seat, where a garment bag lies flat. Inside, perfectly pressed, are Michael's dress blues, the uniform he wore just hours ago at a ceremony honoring returning veterans. The deep blue wool, the crimson stripe, the rows of ribbon seach, one a chapter of his life written in sweat and sacrifice. Clay's lip curls almost imperceptibly. What are you doing in this neighborhood? The question hangs in the air, thick and heavy with implication. I live here, sir. 2 blocks down. The answer is simple, honest, but it's the wrong answer. Clay leans in closer, the smell of stale coffee and self-importance filling the cab. You fit the description of a suspect involved in a series of break-ins. Michael feels the blood freeze in his veins. He knows the description. He's seen the fear in his neighbor's eyes, read the whispers on the community message board. Young black male. That's all it ever said. That's all it ever needed to say. He is the description. His uniform, his medals, his rank, they are invisible. All Clay sees is a threat. Get out of the car. The command is sharp, cutting through the feigned politeness. Michael's training screams at him. Comply, de-escalate, survive. But his spirit, the part of him that has led men into battle, that has stood for something greater than himself, rebels. Why, officer? I've done nothing wrong. Clay's face darkens. The mask slips. I said, get out of the damn car, now. Michael exhales slowly, the air rattling in his chest. He opens the door, his body moving with a rigid grace that belies the storm raging inside him. He keeps his hands where Clay can see them, palms open, a gesture of peace in the face of aggression. The moment his boots hit the pavement, Clay is on him, shoving him hard against the side of his own truck. The cold metal shocks his skin through his thin shirt. The door presses into his back, an unyielding metal spine. "Spread 'em, feet apart." The words are a guttural growl, spat into the side of his face. Michael complies, the familiar position a bitter mockery of his discipline. He stares at his own distorted reflection in the truck's window. He sees a man with his hands braced against a vehicle, legs kicked apart, illuminated by the accusing glare of police lights. He doesn't see a lieutenant. He doesn't see a decorated Marine. He sees the description. The raw humiliation burns hotter than any desert sun. He can hear the crackle of the police radio, a disembodied voice reading license plates, a soundtrack to his degradation. Cars slow down as they pass, their occupants anonymous voyeurs to his shame. He clenches his jaw, tasting blood. He will not give this man the satisfaction of his anger. He will not give him the excuse he is so clearly looking for. He will be stone. He will be ice. He will endure. The pat-down is rough, invasive. Clay's hands are firm, impersonal, yet every touch feels like a violation. He digs into pockets, his fingers probing, searching for the weapon, the drugs, the evidence that will justify his contempt. He finds a wallet. He rips it open and finds the military ID. The eagle, globe, and anchor emblem stares up at him. "Lieutenant Michael Reyes." Clay lets out a short, derisive laugh. "A lieutenant? You?" He flicks the ID onto the hood of the truck, the plastic card skittering across the paint. The disrespect is a physical blow. That card represents more than his name. It represents his oath, his identity. Clay moves to the truck's open door. He sees the garment bag. Without asking, without a warrant, he yanks it from the passenger seat. He unzips it with a violent tug. The deep blue fabric of the uniform spills out. Clay grabs it, his hands careless, and tosses it onto the ground. The jacket lands in a dusty patch of asphalt by the side of the road. The row of ribbons, the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, the Combat Action Ribbon, the Afghanistan Campaign Medal are face down in the dirt. For Michael, this is the desecration of a sacred object. He has seen flags folded with more reverence. He has seen fallen comrades treated with more respect. A tremor runs through his body, a seismic shock of rage that he has to fight to contain. His controlled breathing hitches. He can feel the carefully constructed walls of his composure cracking, threatening to shatter. The image of his honor, his service, lying there in the filth, is a wound deeper than any bullet could ever inflict. He closes his eyes, focusing on the darkness, fighting to hold on to the man he is, not the animal this officer wants him to be. The headlights of a second vehicle cut through the darkness, pulling in quietly behind Clay's patrol car. The engine cuts, and the silence that follows is heavy, expectant. The driver's side door opens, and a woman steps out. She's not in uniform, but she moves with an authority that is unmistakable. Detective Elena Marshall. She wasn't dispatched. She was miles away, finishing up paperwork, the police radio a low hum in the background. But she heard the traffic stop initiated by Clay. She knew his voice, and she knew his reputation. A knot of unease had tightened in her stomach. She'd told herself it was nothing, just another stop. But her instincts, honed by 15 years on the force, told her otherwise, so she drove. Now, she takes in the scene with a practiced, sweeping gaze, the flashing lights, the man pressed against his truck, and Officer Clay puffing his chest out, a predator over his catch. Then her eyes land on the ground, on the heap of dark blue fabric and the glint of medals in the dirt. Her breath catches in her throat. Clay sees her, and his posture changes instantly. The aggression melts away, replaced by a mask of professional efficiency. "Hey, Marshal. Just handling a situation here. Suspect was getting squirrely on me." His words are for her, but his eyes are on Michael, daring him to contradict. Marshall's gaze, however, doesn't linger on Clay. It settles on Michael. She sees the rigid control in his shoulders, the unwavering stillness of his head. She sees the profound and terrible pain in his eyes, a pain that goes far beyond a simple traffic stop. She sees a good man being broken. And in that moment, she makes a choice. She walks past Clay, her footsteps soft but firm on the asphalt, and kneels down. Detective Marshall's hands are surprisingly gentle as she gathers the soiled uniform jacket from the ground. She holds it as if it were a fragile thing, her fingers brushing the dust from the embroidered ribbons with a care that is both a rebuke and an apology. She stands and carefully folds the jacket over her arm, a gesture of profound respect that hangs in the air, thick with unspoken meaning. Officer Clay shifts his weight, a flicker of discomfort in his eyes. He opens his mouth to speak, but Marshall gets there first. She walks to the hood of the truck and picks up the discarded military ID, Lieutenant Michael Reyes, United States Marine Corps. She reads the words aloud, her voice clear and steady in the night air. She looks from the ID in her hand to the dignified man standing silently against the truck, and then her eyes, now as hard as steel, lock onto Clay. What was the probable cause for the vehicle search, Officer Clay? Clay blinks, caught off guard. He was acting suspicious. Furtive movements. I had reason to believe he might be armed. Marshall doesn't even glance at Michael. She keeps her gaze fixed on Clay, pinning him with it. And the initial violation? Why did you pull him over? Failure to signal a lane change. A classic boilerplate excuse. Marshall nods slowly, her expression unreadable. Funny. The bolo for the burglaries in this area was for a white male in a beat-up blue sedan. Your body camera is recording all of this, I assume? It's not a question. It's a statement. A promise. The blood drains from Clay's face. The bravado, the arrogance, it all evaporates, leaving behind a man suddenly exposed, stripped bare under the unforgiving red and blue lights. He looks from Marshall's cold, knowing eyes to the small black lens on his chest, a silent witness that has captured every word, every action, every ounce of his malice. There's no shouting, no grand confrontation, just the quiet, methodical dismantling of a lie. Marshall's voice remains low, almost conversational, but each word is a precision tool, chipping away at Clay's crumbling defense. Your incident report number for this stop, officer? Clay hesitates, his mind racing. I haven't filed it yet. Of course you haven't. Can you state for my benefit, and for the record, the specific statute number for the moving violation you witnessed? He can't. He knows the general rule. But the number, the fine prints never needed it before. His authority was always enough. Now, under Marshall's dissecting gaze, it's worth nothing. Michael remains perfectly still, a silent observer to his own vindication. He watches the exchange, feeling a strange sense of detachment. The fire of his earlier rage has cooled to a hard, dense ember in his gut. He is no longer just a victim of the injustice. He is a witness to its unraveling. He sees the system he has sworn to defend working, not through its brute force, but through the integrity of one person willing to stand against the tide. Detective Marshall turns her attention back to him, her eyes softening with a hint of something he hasn't seen all night. Empathy. Lieutenant Reyes, are you injured? He finds his voice, surprised at its steadiness. No, ma'am, just my pride. Marshall gives a slight, grim nod. She turns back to a visibly sweating Clay. Officer Clay, you can release him. You and I will be having a conversation back at the station. Her tone leaves no room for argument. It is the sound of a door slamming shut. As Clay removes the pressure from his back, Michael slowly stands to his full height, his shoulders squared, his dignity battered but intact. He is no longer just a description. He is Lieutenant Michael Reyes again. The precinct hums with a nervous energy. Whispers follow Detective Marshall down the hall like a trail of static. Clay is in the captain's office, the door closed, his future being decided behind smoked glass. Marshall ignores the stares, the hushed conversations that die as she passes. She walks into her own small, cluttered office and closes the door, shutting out the noise. She needs silence. She needs to see it for herself. She plugs the data card from Clay's body cam into her computer, the small plastic square feeling impossibly heavy in her hand. The file loads. She clicks play. The screen flickers to life, showing the world from Clay's chest. The video is shaky at first, then steadies on the driver's side window of a gray truck. She hears Clay's voice, that folksy, condescending drawl she knows so well. Then she hears the other voice, calm, respectful, measured, the voice of Lieutenant Reyes. She watches the entire encounter unfold, not as a witness this time, but as a juror. She sees the flash of the military ID. She hears Clay's mocking laugh. She flinches when the camera jerks forward, the sound of a body hitting the side of the truck making her stomach clench. Then comes the worst part. The camera tilts down as Clay yanks the garment bag from the truck. She watches as the immaculate dress blues are pulled out and thrown carelessly to the ground. The audio captures the soft, sickening thud of the fabric hitting the dirt. It is the sound of honor being defiled. Marshall leans back in her chair, her face a grim mask. The footage is worse than she imagined. It is irrefutable. It is a cancer. She knows this isn't just about firing one bad cop. This is about cutting out a disease that has been allowed to fester in the dark for far too long, and the only cure is sunlight. The video doesn't just leak, it floods the digital world. It appears on local news sites, then national ones, then explodes across social media. It's shared by veterans, by activists, by mothers, by anyone with a conscience. The grainy bodycam footage becomes a viral testament to a quiet man's dignity and a loud man's hate. The town of Oakhaven, once a sleepy symbol of American peace, becomes the epicenter of a national conversation. But the reaction isn't what the pundits predict. There are no riots, no fires. There is a different kind of power at work. It begins with a single post from the local VFW, a picture of a smiling younger Michael Reyes receiving a medal, with the caption, "This is our lieutenant. He fought for us over there. We will fight for him here." The next day, a dozen veterans, old men in faded caps and young men with scars both visible and unseen, stand a silent vigil outside the police department. They don't chant. They don't hold signs. They just stand, their presence a powerful, unspoken statement. Then neighbors join them. The mailman, the woman from the bakery, the high school history teacher who taught Michael 2 decades ago. They bring coffee and stories. They talk about the boy who used to mow their lawns, the young man who sent postcards from Afghanistan, the quiet hero who had come home seeking peace. Michael, who had wanted nothing more than to retreat, finds himself at the center of a movement he never asked for. Seeing them there, his people, his town, standing for him, transforms the bitter sting of his private humiliation into a collective call for something better. He agrees to make one public statement. Standing before the cameras, his voice clear and strong, he doesn't speak of anger or revenge. He speaks of honor, duty, and the simple promise that the color of a man's skin should not erase the content of his character. The fallout is swift and decisive. Officer Robert Clay is terminated from the Oakhaven Police Department, his badge and gun confiscated. The district attorney, citing the overwhelming evidence of the body cam footage, announces criminal charges for official misconduct and assault, but the changes don't stop there. Under immense public pressure, the department agrees to a sweeping overhaul of its use of force and anti-bias policies, a process to be overseen by a civilian review board. Detective Elena Marshall, who refused to let the truth be buried, is appointed to lead the new Internal Affairs Task Force. Her name becomes synonymous with integrity. Months later, the national spotlight has faded, but the change in Oakhaven is palpable. It's in the way people look at each other, a little more openly, a little more kindly. It's in the conversations happening in diners and barbershops. The wound isn't gone, but it is healing. Michael Reyes is not defined by that night. On a bright Saturday afternoon, he stands on a dusty baseball field, not in a uniform of war, but in the simple t-shirt and cap of a little league coach. He's showing a small boy how to properly grip a bat. The child, no older than 10, points to the thin silver chain around Michael's neck from which a small, unassuming medal hangs. "What's that for?" he asks. Michael kneels down, meeting the boy at his level. His voice is quiet, but every kid on the team leans in to listen. It's a reminder. he says, that serving your country doesn't stop when you take off the uniform. It's about how you treat your neighbors. It's about standing up for what's right, especially when it's hard. He smiles, a genuine, peaceful smile that reaches his eyes. Now, let's see you hit one out of the park. The scar from that night will always be there, but it is no longer a source of pain. It is a map, a guide, a testament to the strength it took to fight a different kind of war and win. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment to let us know your thoughts and where you're watching from. Your voice matters here, and every story you share helps build a more just, united community.